I am Doomsvince, and this is day 79 of Spawn Year.
Cigor was introduced to the Spawn universe in issue 38. So far, we've seen him eat and kill a man snooping around the house of the old scientist who created him. We've seen him hunted by guys hired by the government trying to get their hands on him. We've seen him save a kid from getting run over by a truck, and we've seen him running into New York looking for Al Simmons. This concludes our abridged history of the long and varied exploits of the cyborg ape known as Cigor. Now that we're all up to speed, I can regale you with the fascinating development in the complex and sordid saga of Cigor in this issue. Cigor has followed Al's scent to his throne in the alley. That's it. One page. And I was poking fun at issues 40 to 42 for making us follow this monkey around without even a hint as to why he's in a Spawn comic. It's almost been 20 issues since the character first appeared, and not only has he still never factored into the main story, not only has he yet to even appear in a scene with our protagonist or any supporting characters, but nearly every time he shows up, it's just to remind us he exists. If there was some side story here that needed to happen parallel with the main narrative until they converged, okay. But after his introductory backstory, there's been no story about Cigor. Why not just introduce him when he becomes relevant? How does this even happen? It isn't like Tremor or The Curse or The Freak or anyone else has shown up randomly only to finally sort of matter 20 issues later. Oh wait, I almost forgot. This book is an experiment in dragging its feet. This must be the latest device. Let's see if we can throw a robot gorilla in a comic book, do nothing with him, and get readers to keep buying new issues for months, hoping the robot gorilla will finally meet our hero. Anyway, now on to the other 21 pages. So where is Spawn? Well, he's still abroad with a G.I. Joe costume on over his Spawn suit, doing missions to work toward taking down Jason Wynn. Terry is still guiding him over radio and tells Spawn not to blow anything else up, since this is a rescue mission and the prisoner they're going to get has vital information they can use against Wynn. We spend most of the issue with Major Forcebird, who Spawn will rescue at the end, reading his stream of consciousness as he rots in some prison Wynn sent him to waste away in, punishment for his refusal to cooperate. At first I had no idea who this was and that Spawn was on a mission to collect him. We spend almost half the issue in his head before we see Spawn, and I breathed a sigh of relief when I realized the Major's introduction would pay off in this issue and I wouldn't have to read another 18 more before I even knew what he was doing in the comic book. I was briefly reminded of the Freak's mad ramblings, but it quickly became clear that this Major isn't an unreliable narrator and that he's admirably and intelligently keeping himself as together as anyone could expect given his living conditions. Wynn keeps him barely fed and has the guard regularly beat him to keep him unfocused. It isn't so much the story of a broken man as it is the story of Jason Wynn through the eyes of one of his victims, which is interesting. The Major was a top government strategist who was an expert in the history and philosophy of Genghis Khan. Wynn hired the Major to teach him about Khan's strategies, and as he did, the Major saw Wynn change into something too close to Khan himself, embracing the same merciless ideals. Wynn wanted to become the next great ruler and, like Khan, he learned to abandon his conscience. He could justify any reprehensible act because he was meant for greatness, and if someone died for his greatness, that was meant to happen too. The Major decided he made a grave error in working with Wynn, as though he had bestowed some great mystical secret or power on a soulless man, and wished he could take it back, so he refused to help Wynn further. Wynn himself, according at least to the Major's memory, butchered the Major's wife and son, and threw the Major in this dilapidated prison in some foreign country, we're never told where. Revenge is, of course, a dish best served cold. What could a housewife and a little boy have possibly done to deserve that, he thought. Well, it didn't matter to Khan or to Wynn. Both thought they were destined to rule, and anyone who died in their wake was destined for that fate too. Wynn allows the Major to keep only one thing with him in his cell. He's not even allowed the dignity of clothes, and that's a little wooden box hiding the apron his wife was wearing when she died and the head of his son's favorite toy, a Luke Skywalker action figure. Luke Skywalker's ultimate enemy was also a heartless emperor who destroyed his family in an attempt to manipulate him into joining the dark side so he could take advantage of his skills. So I find that an interesting choice. I think Wynn lets the Major hold on to these things to make a point. His family and his compassion for them made him weak. At one point he says he and Wynn are the same because of their strategic minds, based on Genghis Khan. But they're not. One is a human being, and the other thinks he's above humanity. And like so many creatures of evil we've seen, the Major always pictures both Wynn and Khan with red eyes. Man, so much for that positive message I thought Spawn might be about, that hell has to try to corrupt people because every soul has at least some good in it. I mean, I knew Wynn was your stereotypical two-dimensional power-grubbing wannabe despot, but I had no idea his big character thing would be that he's intentionally made himself soulless without any help from hell, as far as I know. Maybe guys like him are so evil they literally lose their souls, and that's why hell needs someone like Simmons. Otherwise, Bolgi should have orchestrated Wynn's death, and he wouldn't need this insanely drawn-out and incomprehensible scheme to take away the goodness left in Al. But that's just speculation. Without a concrete explanation, it's pretty glaring that someone that evil is running around, and that's not who Bolgi chose to be Spawn. Overall, it's a decent issue. The idea of Wynn as a modern Genghis Khan, even if Khan is spelled two different ways in the comic, because he studied the ideology of Genghis Khan, is interesting, but it's nothing short of ridiculous that one of the supposed greatest strategists in the world, in the issue we're told just how dangerous he really is, can't figure out that Spawn is Al Simmons and is furious at Clown for refusing to reveal his identity. So Wynn oversaw Simmonsville, that psychoplasm town that was physically manifested out of Al's memories. Clown has him messing with Terry, Wanda, and Grandma Blake's lives, and he's working with a creature from hell. And it never occurs to him that Spawn might be a resurrected Al Simmons. What a moron. Yeah, Genghis Khan, my pen. Oh, and we did learn one really nifty thing about Al Simmons this issue. He's good friends with both Geordi LaForge and Meteor Man. Signed, Captain Logan.